Hi everybody. I haven't done a live in ages, so I thought I would hop on. And you know what I realized today? I can see why people do lives from their cars, because all these, I feel like you have a lot of downloads in a car, especially when you have the radio off. So earlier today when I was driving, I was thinking, yeah, I'm gonna do a live. I'm gonna talk about this. I'm gonna talk about this. I'm gonna talk about this. And then sometimes it all goes when you decide to go live. But I just press that button anyway and go, just go. And it'll come back in whatever form, or someone will ask a question and it'll spark. But welcome everyone. And if you're watching the replay, welcome. So I wanted to hop on because I haven't been on for ages. I wanted to ask you all how you are, and I wanted to see whether you are also feeling like it feels like there's a real ripping apart. So throughout the last couple of years, I've been talking about timelines, and your choices will determine your timelines. And I've known that we're all going to have different experiences during this time. Like that was so clear already in 2020, like how people saw things, choices people made, how they were living their lives. It was so clear that people are heading off in different directions, right? And what has marked the last few years for everybody, no matter who you are and no matter what choices you've made, is loss. Loss of people in your life, loss of relationships, friendships. People have either passed away or, by choice, relationships have ended, whatever. Like there's been so much loss. But something that I've noticing at the moment is like this different timeline thing, and like we're all from different places and we're all going different places. And so I feel like at one point I would have thought that a timeline split probably meant that you just weren't aware of certain people anymore. Like you just weren't aware of certain situations anymore. Like I didn't realize it was going to actually feel like a tearing. Is anyone else having this experience at the moment? Where you either feel like people are literally like tearing apart, beliefs are literally like tearing apart, like environments are literally, it just feels almost like getting a piece of paper and going like that. That's actually how it feels like the timelines are splitting. Is anyone else noticing this or having this? Hey everyone, hi Jen, hi Haruka, hey Sharon, nice to have you all here, hello. And so here's what got me thinking about this. I'd love to know, please write in the comments if you're feeling that kind of things are like tearing apart, right? Not necessarily in a bad way, but it just feels like, oh. So I'm not often with people that hold different, I'm not often with people that are on a different page in terms of how they see the major things, right? Not the individual things, but the major things. But I was with someone the other day and he was saying, when are the arrests going to happen? And I was like, arrests? Yeah, when is I won't say the full, but like when is DA going to get arrested? When are they going to get arrested? When are people going to be held accountable, right? He's waiting for the accountability. And whenever I'm with somebody that's at that stage, and I just want to preface this by saying it's not a one-upmanship. It's not a like, oh my God, are you there? People are where they are. It doesn't matter. Some people won't ever leave that. Some people won't leave that certainly this lifetime around. It doesn't matter. But what I'm saying is whenever I'm with somebody that's like caught in that, it's a bit of a shock for me that people are waiting on that, right? And I don't know why it is, because I have been like that myself about many, many things, especially in my personal life, right? Just why I wrote a whole book about nothing can change until you do, right? I wrote Set the Tone, Nothing Can Change Until You Do, because I spent 40 years waiting for the outside to be different, right? So I get it. I get the concept behind waiting for arrests, right? I get the concept behind people going, I'm waiting for disclosure. But what that made me realize, and what I said to him was like, if he was arrested, there's another 400 people in the lineage just waiting to take over. Arrests aren't going to make change. Nothing like, so what I realized was there seems to be two camps. And I would love to know whether you're seeing this too, or whether you're kind of, whether this feels like, whether this resonates. There seems to be like the, I'm waiting for what I'm currently in to change. I'm waiting to see the change, right? I need the change. I want it to be different. I'm waiting for it. And then there is people like me who, and again, I'm not putting it, just, we're just different. We're on different journeys. We're here for different things. We've come from different places. We are here for different purposes. We are going to different places, right? So just the whole thing's just going to be different. But then there are people like me who are like, oh no, I don't believe the structures will ever change. The circus, I'm not waiting for the circus to change. I am always looking for ways to exit the circus. And so that there feels like a constant, it's almost like, it's like a pyramid where at the start 2020, there was a big group of people that kind of went, okay, we're making this choice. But now as we go along and the circus narratives become more nuanced. So for people who've made certain discoveries, for people who kind of feel like, because once the veils start dropping, and here's what I mean by that. Once you start to see something, it's like even in a person, like let's make it a personal example. If you're in a relationship with someone and you start to kind of wake up out of that haze that you can initially have, right, in a relationship, and you start to see things where you go, well, that's a red flag, that's a red flag. You wake up out of the haze even more. You start to see it for what it is. Start to see them for who they are. Once that drops, it's really easy to see it. But before that time, when it's just the odd little red flag, or you think it's just one thing, then you're going to stay in that relationship and you're going to be trying to change that person. Does that make sense? And I feel like that's the kind of the folks on the timeline of, they will say things like the circus, but they don't realize the whole thing is a circus. They just don't realize the whole thing is. And this was me, for sure. Probably up until, I feel like maybe in the last kind of year, I've really, and it is that, veils start dropping and then it's easier to see all the things. And then you realize that nothing is ever talked about if they don't want you to talk about it. You can't see something unless they're happy for you to see it. It will have an agenda. I remember earlier on, people would write to me, hey Jay, people would write to me and say, oh, they're controlled opposition. Let's say Russell Brand. And I would go, I don't care. Like, firstly, I don't know that he is, and I don't care. Now I understand the nuance of controlled opposition. I understand that the circus will give you heroes and the circus will give you villains, and the circus will allow certain things to be spoken about. And controlled opposition, firstly, does not mean that the person is in on it, right? They're not necessarily in on it. Is Russell Brand? Yeah, for sure now. But not everyone. That's sometimes topics can be used as controlled opposition. They will allow, and here's what I mean by controlled opposition. You will be given some information. So like they'll say, hey, there's a pothole up ahead, here's a detour, but they'll make sure you detour to a place where, like, they'll keep you swirling on that, but not actually show you the exits. This is what I said to someone the other day. The best way to understand controlled opposition is to understand that they will give you some truth. They will reveal an aspect of what is happening with the intention of ensuring you still don't see the exits and you keep swirling. And so I feel like that's kind of these two timeline maybe rips. I really feel like it really feels like a ripping of like a way of things. You have to kind of almost be willing to just drop anything and everything that does not align. I really feel like it's the only way you can find the exit. The exit to what? The exit to the circus, right? The two different views of this is the people who will still feel like it's through government that we will get out of this. It's through this that we will get out of this. It's by making sure that it's by fighting this, it's by attacking this, it's by voting, it's by whatever that we will get out of this. And then there's this other group that I'm a part of, which is like the structures are rotten to the core. All of them. Are the people in it rotten to the core? No, not everybody. There will be well-intentioned politicians, well-intentioned people who go into politics. But then the system is designed for you not to have power. This is the thing that people, I feel like you either kind of get that at the moment or you don't get that. And there seems to be this break and this split between. And so I just was quite sort of shocked at this person saying like, when are the arrests going to happen? And I was like, what arrests? Now, in history, there have been arrests. Have there? There are things that we are told about history because we read them from books that we now know are curated and censored and written with an intentional propaganda message to pass on to the next generation. There are movies that we see that with intentional messaging. There are people who are allowed to speak up about certain things because they say the right thing. We know this now. We know this now. We're in it. We are living a page of history right now. And we know that there are some future generations that will never have any idea that anybody questioned any of this, that anybody made choices that some of us are making, that some of us call foul on the whole thing. No one will, some generations will not know that. They will not know it because this will not be in history books. So it's when you start to understand that you start to understand this is not the way to the exit. This is not the way to the exits. And I mean, I'd love to know of those of you here, do you feel like you want to exit the circus? I'm not talking about death. I'm not talking about necessarily exiting the planet and being somewhere different. I'm not even talking about, so let me see what some of you are saying. Give you a chance to write in the comments. Big spiritual warfare happening. Evil entities showing up through people. Yes, I get it. Keep going. Beautiful. So no accountability for those people, example, narcissists in your life. I'm not sure if you're new here. I don't love the term narcissist. That doesn't mean that you can't use the term narcissist. You just won't find me using it. Not sure what you mean by about no accountability. The systems are rotten. Exactly. And so when the system is rotten, so when this person said to me, when are the arrests happening? And so the fact that he's waiting for arrests. Okay, so you could say, well, in history, like let's say after, you know, with the people with the N and the Z in their names, after like they were arrested. Okay, so I'm going to say, were they? Were they? We know that many of them were then the founding fathers of the pharmaceutical industries. Was any of what was going on then stopped? Or did it just no longer occur in certain places and does it now occur on a bigger scale? Has anything ever stopped? Are we just seeing oh, have we just been imprisoned all our lives? Have we just been slaves? I mean, my answer to that is yes. From my perspective, yes. When you start to see that, you start to see that the circus will only show you what suits the narrative. That doesn't mean that these aren't valid things. I think that's where people get caught up, right? Because something's been hijacked, or because something's been used to loosh off you, or because something's been used to actually discredit it, doesn't mean that there isn't a valid topic to be spoken about. But if it is spoken about on the world stage, if people are allowed to talk about it without being censored, then it's being done for the circus agenda. Because you all know what happens when you say something that's not allowed. The fact that I'm talking in code, the fact that we've all had to learn to speak in code, the fact that Instagram will shadow ban you simply for what comments, for what posts you like. You will get shadow banned on your likes and also your DM conversations. Now, are they going to let somebody go onto the world stage and talk about anything that goes against whatever? Are they going to let them? No, not without discrediting them greatly. Some people do, and then they're like quickly debunked, right? I'm having constant requests to come on the live, and I know that it's this ridiculous new thing where when you hop on a live, Instagram says, want to join? Like, yeah, let's have like 45,000 people on here. The systems are rotten, yes. Like the healthcare system, there is staff who care, but it's the system that won't change. Exactly. I was staff who cared. I was a brilliant nurse. I was a very caring nurse. I always looked after my patients very well. I always spoke up for them. I always told them what I was doing to the best of my knowledge. You know, what the side effects of things were. And I worked with a whole heap of people that were kind-hearted and good people. But the system is rotten to the core. And so when I look at, and I would say the healthcare system is part of the circus, the education system is part of the circus, the legal system is part of the circus, all of it. And so I don't see a way through these systems. I don't believe these systems will ever allow us to exit through them. I don't believe they hold exit doors. I believe that it is through our choices, for me personally, to exit these systems as much as I can, as much as we all can. That is how doors start to open, and then we will find the exits. Hi Haruka, I feel like I'm still in the circus maze right now. Jen, we all are, and we can all only, okay, just before, here's what came to me, and let me know how you feel about it. There's definitely a truth, a detour funnel. Absolutely. Okay, let me talk about that first. Someone recently said to me, well, you're a truther, and I said, no, I am not now, nor have I ever been a truther. I also want to just say, truther is a label that's been put on a certain type of person or a group that they themselves haven't necessarily chosen, or that they themselves don't necessarily resonate with, right? There could be many people that we think of as being part of that group that they themselves also would say, no, I don't consider myself that. But here's how I've always been different, and I was surprised that she would have considered me a truther. I have never encouraged anybody to run around and wake people up. If you have been here for a long time, and by that I just mean like, you know, for the last few years, or many of you were before then, you will know that what I have always said to you is wake yourself up. Wake yourself up. Lead by example. Don't worry about what others are doing. Don't waste your time. Don't be disrespectful. Don't push your things on other people, right? You worry about you. What do I know? What resonates with me? How do I feel? You choose what is right for you. And if you want to be given respect, if you want people to respect your choices, then you show them the same respect. This is what you will have heard here. Now, I'm not saying that you keep things quiet. If somebody asks you, speak the truth. Say whatever you want. Put on your channels whatever you want. But I don't know how I could be considered a truther, because for me, a truther is somebody who will say, this is the truth, spread it far and wide, shout it from the rooftops, make sure everybody hears. And that's why there's a big Christian element, a big religious element in the truther community, because it is it is kind of that same kind of theme of like, I know the truth and I need to share it, and it is my responsibility to wake other people up. And I have encouraged you from the start to know that it is not your responsibility to wake other people up, right? Demote yourself from savior of the world. This is actually this is one of the programs we get taught that actually keeps us swirling and not really looking at our own stuff. Get the mirror out, look in the mirror, and there you will find all the work that you will ever need to do. And so in the book club that I did recently, where I actually asked in that book club, write down the world that you wish to live in, and then look at that and ask yourself, am I ready to live in that world? Am I living like this, right? Because to me, that's how we create the new world. We do not create it through rotten to the core, dying structures that are actually probably been dead for a long time. The healthcare system is dead and on its knees. It is like beyond resuscitation, and they're just pretending. The banking system's the same. There are so many systems in this dead. It's not even a dead world. They want you to think the world is dying. The world is not dying. The circus is dying. And there are so many aspects to the game, that simply no longer work, but they need us to create it. And so this is why they want us to stay in the maze. They'll go, here's a crumb, and then swirl around that. That is what controlled opposition is. Swirl around that, but don't find the exits. And so not every account that keeps you swirling is intentionally controlled opposition. You can kind of get controlled opposition fever where you think everybody is. But what I'm saying to you about that is, if someone's on the world stage, if someone is able to get a message out worldwide without being censored, without being heavily ridiculed, then either they are controlled opposition themselves, they are either part of the game themselves, or they are being used as a pawn. They aren't necessarily part of the game, but in some way their message is helping either to create great division, to drive fear, to drive conflict, or to keep you swirling on a particular topic but not actually doing anything about it. Let's say, for example, like Black Lives Matter, based on a narrative that is true and real, and a problem that exists and is true and real, hijacked so that we never actually get together and sit down and go, hey, what the conflict between black and white races, genders, that conflict has always been fueled intentionally to keep us fighting. And so there are aspects of that division that we need to talk about. There are aspects of the trans narrative that are about hating women and that are intended for, so that like there is no fertility that's natural, and it is intended to demasculate. It is intended, it's just intended for a whole load of shit fuckery. But that doesn't mean there aren't genuine trans folks and trans issues. We need to sit down and we need to hold respect and regard for the genuineness within the pile of shit. Because this is what the circus does. It takes a genuine issue and it shits all over it, and we become like the flies that are swarming around the pile of shit. And so then you'll have some people going, if you talk about this at all, you're negating it, right? And then you'll have other people going, this isn't even real. And you'll have those black and white kind of here and here, both ego. We know that. We always know when it's black and it's white, it's ego. When it's right and it's wrong, it's ego. We're ready to move beyond that. We're ready to live in the nuance. We're ready to live in the middle. We're ready to live in the grey. We are old enough to know that there are genuine trans folks, that there are genuine people, adults, who wish to transition. And we also know that it is a circus narrative that has been used to completely divide and to just shit all over humanity as a whole. We are old enough to do that. We are mature enough to do that. We are grown enough to do that. And so are we going to look at the government for the way through? Are we going to go, oh, well, when DA leaves, then we'll have, and then we'll vote, and then, or are we going to go, do you know what? I think this is all part of the circus. It's all part of the kind of the hijacked kind of sense of this world. And I just want an exit where I get to live in a world where I can be like a grown-up and I can make my own decisions and I can, not be, and I can remember who I am without that messing with their agenda. So they're going to keep bopping me on the head every time I try and stand up. And I know I can't do that through the circus, because the circus is not going to choose its own demise. You understand, the circus would have to choose its own demise for us to be able to be in the full expression of who we are and to be able to live fully in our power. And they're not going to choose that. I used to feel often I want to exit. Yeah. So sometimes we can feel like I want to exit because it's all awful and terrible and I don't want to be here. But we can also look for exits to the game. And I don't know about you, Haruka, but I feel like I have often chosen to exit the game in the last few years. And I feel like this is why at the start of the year I kept, when I said this is the year to be authentically me. 2023 is the year to be authentically me. And that's not just me, that's all of us, right? It's a real year of authenticity where, and this is why maybe there is the tearing of like, things that don't fit just don't fit anymore. And it's people and it's relationships and it's jobs and it's all sorts of things that can be really painful. We can choose. We are seasoned players now. And when the game is afoot, I can spot it. And I know that can trigger the fuck out of people. It can trigger the fuck out of people when you say, that's the game. Because then they'll go, what, so you saying that's not real? It's so nuanced. Something can be real. People can actually be dying People can actually be experiencing something. Something can be really, truly happening. And it can also be a hijacking of the narrative, and it can also be being used to keep you further in the circus, and it can also be being used to keep you swirling. And as we know, because we've stated it throughout this, people can be good people and they can be in a system that's rotten. Just because I was a good nurse doesn't mean that people came to the hospitals that I worked at and actually got well, right? So you can't take it down to the individual. But if you look at the systems and you realize that the systems rely on you not exiting, and I don't mean death, I mean attention, focus, power, awareness, choices. That's what I mean by looking for the exits. Jai, I have left the circus. It's in town and I can hear it, but I don't watch it anymore, not even from the fence. I don't care what happens in the circus anymore. And I know that there is a period of time where that's really triggering for others to hear. I remember being in that period, you know, in the scheme of things, probably not that long ago, where I was really triggered. Often, and Jai, you know, you're here, regularly, I advise people to get out and to do exactly what you're doing a lot. And then, you know, I remember, you know, already years ago, my auntie would say, I don't watch the news. It triggered the fuck out of me. I was like, well, then how do you know? I mean, I didn't say this to her, but I was like, then how do you know what's going on in the world? Like, you owe it to people to know what's going on. Like, I owe it to people to know who's starving and who's being bombed and who's this and who's this. And now I look at that, you know, that former me, and I would say to her, like, turn that shit off. It is intentionally used to traumatize you. It is not you in your power or being aware or knowing what's going on in the world. It is 80% propaganda. And again, so then people go, so you're saying it's not real. I mean, look, the best example is the war in the country with the U, right? It starts with you. Look how divisive it is even to talk about what is going on there, right? You have to, perfect circus narrative. You have to have a bad guy, clearly that's Russia. You have to have a good guy, clearly that's the Ukraine. Then you have to have victims. You have to have people we need to feel sorry for. So you're going to very much skew that. We have to have someone we can boo at. We have to have someone we can cheer. We have to have the hissing. And all along you're being loosed. You're being loosed. Are people genuinely dying? I imagine so. I imagine so. But not for the reasons that you think they are. They're dying because they're serving a purpose for the greater belief of the division that goes on. And so I'm at a point where this is what I was going to talk about with ascension. You know, I've had a lot of focus, many of us focusing on ascension. Others will go, that's a load of shit, it's not happening. Whatever resonates with you, it doesn't matter. What resonates with me is ascension, right? From time of arrival here, I've been looking for the exits. And I'm telling you, I am exiting. I have no intention of staying part of the game. Some people have come to love the playing of the game. So they're happy to go to the next level. They're like, yep, chip me, do this, do that. I'm playing the game. I mean, I'm not saying consciously that they're aware of that, but some people will say to you, yeah, I don't care, right? They're like, I'm just playing the game. I'm gonna go to the next level. I'm going to the next level. And I feel like this is what waking up kind of sort of is where you go, I don't think this is kind of how it's meant to be. And I am starting to remember things about myself. I'm starting to remember things about us humans. And we're more than this, right? That's what the waking up process is. It's like, it's almost like shaking off like a haze and going, hang on, did they just say that? I don't think that's true, right? And so it's always going to be a process that takes time, and it's always going to be layered. And sometimes we have like times of clarity and being awake, and then we fall back to sleep, and then we wake up and we're awake to some things in the circus and we're not to others. That's the same with everybody. But I now feel like what ascension is, and if I do this, hopefully it doesn't go, oh my God, she's Illuminati. It's a fucking triangle, people. We can do triangles. We can do triangles. I have one as part of my logo. It doesn't mean I'm Illuminati. It's just a triangle, right? In 2020, when some of us started making different choices, there was more of us. And as things become more nuanced, some people are like, yeah, I just didn't want to make that choice. I'm happy with what's going on now. People are dropping off that getting to the pointier end of the triangle. And what I realized today was the ascension, I'm starting to come to understand that what ascension is realizing you're at the top of your own triangle. It's you ascending into remembering who you are and to being in the highest form of yourself and into being in your power. It's you moving out of the circus. But if we think of it as a triangle, it's coming from the place where we always thought the outside determines the inside, where we're all focused on the outside, right? That's the bottom. It's all about the outside. It's all about voting and school and getting a good job and relationships and kids and material stuff. And then it kind of went, oh, I don't think that's really what matters. Oh, I think all the structures are really rotten and diseased. Oh, I actually just want to live in peace. Oh, I'm actually getting more and more clear on what resonates with me and who I truly am. And then going, oh, fuck, my life is about me. I'm now beginning to understand that's what ascension is. It's ascending to the top of your own pyramid. It's ascending to realizing it's only ever been about me. And that's another thing that you've been taught is wrong to believe, and it's wrong to say, and it's not, and it makes you whatever names we want to throw at that. But that's just to keep you from your own power. Because when no matter what is happening to you, you turn around and you look in the mirror and you go, what is this telling me about me? What is this showing me about me? Where have I forgotten myself? Where have I forgotten my power? Where am I not doing what I want to see in the world? When they're the questions you start asking yourself, when you realize, this is why I wrote a whole book on understanding that nothing can change until you do. And I wrote that book for personal relationships. I wrote it about our personal lives. And now I realize how much it is also true on the world scale. We can't use the current structures to get the change we want. That would be like taking the partner that the relationship is not working with and saying to them, you need to change, you need to change, you need to stop cheating on me, you need to stop hitting me, you need to stop this, and trying to get them and going, I'm just waiting for them to be who I want them to be. This is what we're doing to the world, to the current structures. I'm just waiting on them. And they rely on you to do that. The circus relies on you waiting. Let's wait 4 years and then we can vote. Let's wait this long and then we'll see what happens here. They've planted Agenda 2030 into your head. Now, is Agenda 2030 real? I do not doubt for one moment that it has been laid out and that they have all the plans of what they want in place. But I'm going to remind you, they are not the ones with power. The circus, the creators of the circus, and the organ grinders, and all the people on the stage, all those lower energies and all those lower frequencies that are responsible for the hijacking and the amnesia. And I think it's actually a different aspect of us. It's a lower aspect of us, but don't let that sidetrack you if you're like, what? Just those lower energies, those lower frequencies, the shadow, whatever you want to call it, whatever words you're using to describe that, do not have the power to create anything. We are the ones with the power. And so they just suggest and they just feed and they just poke and prod and trigger a reaction from us. So if we have Agenda 2030, Agenda 2030, Agenda 2030, and we start creating it for them. Is it real without us creating it? Yes, but only as a possibility, only as an intention. It needs your attention to create it. Does that make sense? After deciding to commit to my music, I feel okay about being here on earth. I love that, Haruka, because clearly you have always had a purpose and a passion and a love that you're sharing with the world now, and you're seeing, oh yeah, this is why I'm here. And so I love that you have committed to that. Totally agree with this about history. Yes, exactly. It has always been, we were just not seeing it. Yes, for sure. This is not a 2020 thing. Often I use 2020 just to, because then people go, yeah, like that. We can see that was kind of like a major kind of awakening moment. But yes, the circus has always existed. By circus maze, I mean I'm out of the circus. Oh, okay. I just can't find a clear way out of the car park right now. I love that, Jen. You know what? At least you're in the car park. Celebrate that you're in the car park. And I think too, if you were to leave too quickly, it would be too much for all of us. This is why things have to happen in stages, so that we don't completely get overwhelmed, lose our minds, go into shock. It has to happen in stages. And here's what I've found. When you are faced with a certain thing, you kind of almost have to, in a way, you do exit through the circus, but only through the recognition that it's there, being given the option, do you want to play today? And you say, no, I do not want to play. Thank you very much. Move along. And when you can do that, it's like another door opens, and that's how you'll leave the car park. It's like actually through it in that way. Does that make sense? The awakening is kind of through it. It's just you don't want to ask permission of the circus. You don't want to wait for the circus acts to change and start being better circus acts. That's what I kind of feel like a lot of people are doing. And I was doing the same thing. So before when I was talking about controlled opposition, and people would say to me, Russell Brand is controlled opposition, or certain people, and I'd go, oh, I don't care. I don't care that they are. At least they're helping wake people up. What I see now is that they only ever really help people wake up because we can think we're awake, but we're not, when we're still triggered into a big response. I'm going to remind you, if you haven't heard me say it before, if you have, it's always a good reminder. Being aware does not make you awake. Being awake is being aware and remembering your power. So if you see something for the shit fuckery that it is, but it sends you into a spin and you get angry, you lose your shit, you go, oh my God, whatever, that's not awake just because you go, I see what you're doing. It's when you can say, I see what you're doing and we're not playing, and you move along, then you're awake to what is happening and you've stayed in control of your response and you're not feeding the circus anymore. So those people who are saying, when are the arrests going to happen? When is this going to happen? When is so-and-so going to become president? When will da-da-da-da-da-da-da, all the whens, all the waiting for the outside to be different. They're waiting for the circus play to be a better circus play. And I don't believe that that's how you get the exit. But I believe how you get the exit is by going through, by seeing something and by going, we're not going to play. That's how you get the exit, because then a door opens. The world is not dying, the circus is dying. Exactly. The world is not dying. And that is another thing. Like, are we disrespecting the earth? Absolutely. That's another thing where there's a valid topic and a valid thing that we need to look at underneath a great big pile of shit. But they don't actually want you to do anything about it. This is the thing with the stuff that we're seeing at the moment, things coming out. It's very individual. You know, you'll follow an account and you'll go, oh, wow, yeah, and you know, did you know this? And like, we'll share that with each other. If it's world stage, if it's on the news, it can look like disclosure. It can look like they're now telling the truth, but it's really only intentional for more divide, or it is to hide a bigger truth. It is to have us swirling around the great big pile of shit and divided over it and arguing over it and fighting over it, so that we don't look at the actual bigger, deeper issue that does need looking at. Right? It's like I was saying to someone before, it's like whenever they have something that they want us to look at, and you will know what it is because they'll talk about it a lot, all of them. You know, it's always good to ask, what is it that you don't want me to be looking at right now? Because it's like having a rattle in front of a baby and you're trying to get its attention. Oh, hang on, you want me over here because what's happening when I'm over there? At issue, people awake at different times. Yeah, exactly. That's the annoying part of the circus. People do awake at different times, and you know, there's elements of us that are at different stages, right? Get me on a good day and you're going to go, yeah, that was, you know, wow, she's like aware of that. Get me on a bad day and you're going to go, fuck, like she's got a lot to learn. That is all of us, right? And so that's us as a humanity. But what helps me to kind of be at peace with that is to understand nobody needs to come along with me on my journey, like no one. There is no other being on this planet in this experience that needs to come along with me on my journey. It is mine. It is mine to have. It is mine to choose. It is mine to navigate. And so therefore, no one has to be or do anything. It is their right to be on their journey, on their own, the top of their own pyramid, and to realize, oh, fuck, my life's about me. And so it doesn't matter what Sabina thinks, and it doesn't matter what whoever thinks, and it doesn't matter what anybody thinks. What do I think? What feels right? What feels good? And once you can kind of let go of all of it, that's when the doors will really start opening, because, you know, our courage is always met. And understanding that we've all come from different places. Like I've really been realizing for some time now that this whole experience is kind of a little bit like an airport, where everybody comes to the airport, but everybody's arrived from somewhere different and everybody's going somewhere different. And I've used that airport analogy because they gave it to me. I got it given to me as a way of explaining, and it's just really resonated with me really well. Of like, nobody needs to be anywhere, and no one needs to get on the same flight as me, and nobody needs to order the same meal on the plane. What's going on with planes and people shape-shifting? There are trans people suffering, exactly. And that makes me sad. That makes me really sad. And the call to beat people up that are going into toilets and things, it's like, if you think that the circus is pro-trans, be a trans person. The circus is not pro-trans. The circus wants you to hate the trans person. The circus wants you to attack it. That's why they have put it everywhere. If they put it everywhere, and of course the circus always controls both narratives. It wants a biffo. It wants a biffo. I've used this example before. You can think of any agenda, any narrative, any circus play part of this experience like being in a stadium, and then what the circus creators do is they throw something in the center of the stadium and they watch us attack it. They watch us attack each other. they watch us fight, they watch us in division, because that fuels so many aspects of the agenda. While you are fighting and divided, you are not in your power, you are not remembering who you are, and you are not united, and you are not actually seeing clearly what is happening. And so what have we got now? We've got genuine trans people living in fear, taking a million steps backwards. You've got gay folks having their lives have taken a million steps backwards. You've got all sorts of things happening. You've got all sorts of hatred, and they'll encourage you to attack the thing that will not change because it will attack back, rather than to take power and actually take a kid out of school. Yeah, it's really, my heart really goes out to them. Honestly, fuck the circus, where's the campsite? Yes. We're already at the campsite. I've already set up the tent. I've got my finger on the escape key on the keyboard. Beautiful. Beautiful. They said the 2024 elections will be fully AI. That's a mind game I want nothing to do with. You know, the whole AI thing is so interesting. And this is where I mean, like, some people are liking the game. If I think of it as a game, and that's not to downplay how hard this life thing is, right? Fucking hard. It's fucking hard. No one gets out without trauma, pain, and massive heartbreak. But we can get out consciously, and we can evolve beyond it, right? And then I reckon we're actually probably going to look back and go, oh my God, I loved it. It was brilliant. I actually do believe, I'm on and off with it, but I actually do believe that we are in a game. I believe that we elected to come here, and that we elected to probably help other people wake up out of the game. But we don't ever do that by shaking them and going, fucking, what is wrong with you? Have a look at it. We do that by living by example, right? But the whole AI thing, that's where you can see people go, yeah, I love it. It's great. And you go, okay, they're not all going to be NPCs. Some of them are humans who enjoy the game, and they're like, I'm here for it. I'm here for this part of the game. You can see it. Some of them may not be humans. Who knows? Let's take that off. Let's just say beings. Some beings get here and they go, I love me some AI. I want the bot chats. I want the AI art. AI art makes me want to hurl. I can't cope with it. I can't cope with it. It just doesn't feel good. It's on so many posts now. You know, it's on so many things where I'm like, what are you doing with the AI art? Where is your artistry? Why now? Okay, sure, you need to be able to use the computer program. Like there's intellect there, there's creativity there for sure. But I just want you doing the art. And so you can see that's me going, nope, I'm heading out there. And so there's different aspects, and I'm doing down, but it might just as well be up, or it could be sideways. Levels of the game where people are happy to go into the next aspect of it. And I'm like, no. So for me, I'm often, many times a day going, I choose the organic timeline. I choose the organic timeline at every possible option that I have. But other people love the AI stuff. Notice how the awakening up now are not talking about it. Yes, exactly. It's just a freaking triangle, people. Just a fucking triangle. And this is why I have a triangle as part of my logo, right? It was a period of time. I was still nursing. I was not doing kinesiology. There was not even any thought of studying it. I think I was in like my early 30s, something around there. And firstly, I would sit on the couch and I would do this. And I had no idea why I was doing it. Just started happening. And very interestingly, the type of kinesiology I studied actually uses finger modes. Now they're mudras, but it uses finger modes. And so you actually muscle test and you do use, which I actually ironically learned that way, but stopped doing it really quickly and would just test up down the page or just as I was thinking things in my mind. But this started happening a long time before I studied kinesiology. I would just sit there watching telly and I'd be doing this. And then one day I was lying on the floor in the lounge room, just kind of like gazing up at the ceiling. And I noticed that I kept doing triangles on different parts. Okay, I kept doing triangles on different parts, different chakras, different areas of my body very naturally. Again, I didn't know what was happening. And it was a period of my life, there was a lot of turmoil, a lot of pain, a lot of confusion. I had no idea what the fuck to do. I was in like year 456 of wanting to get the fuck out of nursing and still not knowing what I was going to do instead. And one day I was doing the triangles and I was like, triangle, try a new angle. And it was like a light bulb moment of like, oh my God, it was like a revelation. Try a new angle. And that is when I started reading A Course in Miracles. And that is what completely changed my life. And that is what my book is based on, my work is based on with clients, a big part of that. And also the psychology, I studied cognitive behavioral therapy. So a big part of the way I work kind of draws from that as well. But such a big part of like remembering my power, ego, what its role is, comes from a firm foundation in that. And that came when I got this try a new angle. And it was not long after that my friend came home one day who we lived together and she was also a nurse. And she came home one day and she said, I bought you that book you've been talking about, A Course in Miracles. Because I had read Marianne Williamson's. Now, there's no way I'd go anywhere near her stuff now, but Marianne Williamson's A Return to Love. And anytime I read something that has a profound effect on me, I always want to go to the source, right? If somebody writes about something, which she had written about A Course in Miracles, and I really like it, then I'm like, okay, I'm going to go to the source. I need to read it myself. I want my own understanding of it. I want my own experience with it. And I had wanted to buy it for a while. It's very expensive. And it came to me. And try a new angle. Boy, did I try a new angle. Totally shifted in my perspective. Totally shifted in my beliefs. Totally shifted in the way I do my whole life. And really everything started to change from that point in time. To the point where if you met me now and you knew me then, you would think I was two different people. So for me, the triangle thing has always been really powerful and there's nothing sinister about it as far as, like for me, it's a triangle, people. I dropped something in the family chat about wasn't I right? It's just a different response now compared to, yeah. Yep, don't focus on yourself, selfish. Yes, that's one of the ways that our experience is hijacked. There is no better way to keep somebody from their own power, their own wisdom, their own insights, their own connection with source, and in the highest expression of themselves, than to tell them, don't focus on yourself. No better way. Loving this, but I have a Zoom in 3 minutes. Okay, Jen, I will save it if you can be bothered. This is, part of the agenda of hijacking your attention span is to make lives reels so that you can't pause them, you can't go backwards, forwards, whatever. Only one timeline. Circus exits because of their audience, although low spectators now. Yes, I agree with that. They are putting out new shows to grab more audiences. Yes, I fully agree with you on that. There is lower spectator participation, and so the loosh runs low. And so what happens then is for those folks who have, this is interesting with, you know, the constant like join the lives, you wouldn't actually know if somebody actually did want to join the live. Not that I have people on, but it does actually make it quite interesting. Because the loosh is low, there's not the budget that they would have once had. And so for those of us where the veil is already dropping, it's getting clearer to see when something is shit fuckery, because the budget is so low. False awakening. Yeah. Like the ants in the jar when shaken up. What's the ants in the jar when shaken up thing? Do you mean like us when I was talking about the stadium and how they want us to fight each other? Is that what ants do? It's also so interesting, you know, when things are kept in a certain container, and then you can remove the container, but they'll still stay in that. They won't realize they can fly or move beyond. And that's definitely what's happening with a lot of people. Some of us are just waking up to the fact that, hey, I can actually move beyond here. I can actually push these walls out a little bit. I can actually, you know, really it's about, look, we needed 2020. We needed it because we were like teens. Actually, we're like teens in terms of thinking we know it all, but really taking no responsibility. But we were like 50-year-olds living on our parents' couch. That's how we interact with the circus. And just like a teen who gets shitty with the rules at home, but is not willing to take any responsibility or pay any of the bills or any of that kind of thing, that's how we were living within the circus. We want to live how we want to live, but we want to live completely reliant with no rules. And the thing is, the circus is just making its rules clearer. If you would like to continue to participate, if you would like to continue to enter into the circus, these are the rules. And so I suppose there are people who are busy fighting the rules and going, I don't like these rules, I want you to drop these rules. And then there are people who are like, okay, this is actually the wake-up call I needed. For me, it's the wake-up call I needed. And then it's just everything lit up and like went, okay, let's go. Let's be fully authentic. Let's stand up. Let's live as a grown-up. Let's say no when it's a hard no. Let's not live in fear. Let's not live like, you know, let's become more self-reliant and independent. And that doesn't always mean go and live off-grid. What it can mean is that in scenarios where I need to say no, I'm going to say no. It can be walking without a mask on through an area of people with masks on. It can be taking your kid out of school. It can be whatever. It can be whatever, right? It can just be getting rid of friends who really don't fit you anymore. It can be getting out of a marriage. It can be anything. It can be anything that's your thing. It's your thing. Top of the triangle. You're at the top of the triangle. It is you are a unique expression having your own unique experience of this. And nobody can really tell you what you're here for and to do, but your gut will tell you, your instinct will tell you, your intuition will tell you, your heart will tell you, your connection to source will tell you what feels right. And that's when doors will open, and that's when exit signs will appear. And it's about exiting shit fuckery in a sense more so than the structures, right? Because if you can't do that at this point, don't force it. Don't go and live like a pauper in the mountains, because you navigate it how you can, right? Timing is a big thing. I got cut off for a bit. Did you just say feel funny about AI art? I can't stand it. I can't stand AI art. It's the Kali Mudra. Okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah. I mean, all things AI. I know, you know, like AI chatbots and things like. There's a lot of controlled panic right now with those circus masters and their puppets. Yes, controlled panic is beautiful. It's another controlled opposition, controlled panic. It's all intentional. And once you can see it, you can stop taking it personally, but people will get triggered by you being able to see it. And you don't have to take that personally either. How do you feel about chakra energy work? Feel good about it. It's not probably so much what you have done, it's more the person who does it, really. Know thyself, soul. Yes. It's what you're here for. It's what you're here for. So, what time did I come on? I don't even know. I think I've been on for a while. Any questions, any comments? That's probably it from me. Yes. It is a gift indeed. It is a gift indeed. So, how are you all feeling? Are you okay? I just jumped on and can almost see it swimming around you. What is it that you can see swimming around me? And yes, I am okay. I'm well. Any questions? Any comments? Yeah, good to have you here too, Haruka. And I'm so glad to see you doing what you're doing. And I love that it's about finding that, isn't it? And we're allowed to pivot and we're allowed to do something until we don't want to do it anymore. That's always, I mean, I'm saying we're allowed, like you don't need my permission. Give yourself the permission that if it was to not feel right anymore, that you don't do it. But when you start giving yourself permission to just be who you are and to do something that lights you up and to do something that makes you happy and to know that you don't need to do anything for the collective other than be yourself authentically, an authentic expression of that. You don't need to save anybody but yourself. You don't need to worry about anybody but yourself. I mean, I know that those things they can trigger, but what they trigger ego. They trigger your ego, which is the most selfish part of us, right? Actually gets triggered into going, that's wrong. We're not meant to just worry about ourselves. Firstly, worrying about somebody else never did them any good at all. It's an energetic drain to you, and it's seeing them in kind of a weaker version of them. But focus on you. You're at the top of that triangle. This life is about you. It's only about you, and you will navigate your own way. Your choices will highlight the exits for you. Some people will not want to exit. They don't want to. That's their thing. They want to go further in. They want to play. They're not ready to give up playing, and that's totally okay. So just do what feels right for you. Thank you. It's the only prayer that I have ever needed. Yes. Thank you. It is the only prayer that I have ever needed. Yes. Beautiful. All right, folks. I will save this, and it's nice to be back on here. I had a month off social media, which was also great. Highly recommend that you do take times off. Highly recommend that you do things that help you to expand your focus and your attention. So many people now saying to me, I can't read at all. I can't read anything that's longer than whatever. Now, I can't read online a lot. Like, I don't really like that, but pick up a book. Watch a movie without having your phone in reach. Just focus. Go for a walk without music, without something. Just be in nature with your mind. You will get so much inspiration. You will have easy connection. You just need to get, the noise just tone the noise down, and you'll get your own guidance, which really you only ever need yours. And it's all just like the circus is really there just for us to remember ourselves, really. All right, everyone, thank you for being here. Thanks for your comments. I've really enjoyed this live, and see you again soon.